Part 1. Ancient Korea and the Gojoseon Kingdom, circa 2333 BCE, 108 BCE. Korean history begins with the legendary founding of Gojoseon by Dangun in 2333 BCE, a semi-mythical figure said to be born of a heavenly prince and a bear woman. While the Dangun myth is symbolic, early records and archaeological evidence confirm the existence of Gojoseon as the first Korean kingdom. Centered in the northern Korean peninsula and parts of Manchuria, Gojoseon developed a structured society based on agriculture, bronze tools, and a proto-legal code. It maintained trade and cultural exchanges with early Chinese dynasties, especially the Yin state. However, tensions with the Han dynasty led to military conflict, and by 108 BCE, Han China had conquered Gojoseon, establishing 4 commanderies in its territory. This marked the beginning of centuries of cultural interaction and resistance. Though Gojoseon fell, it laid the political and cultural foundations for later Korean kingdoms. The ideas of centralized rule, spiritual origin, and ethnic unity were passed down, influencing how Koreans viewed their identity and history. Gojoseon remains a powerful national symbol, representing Korea's ancient independence and enduring spirit. Part 2. The Three Kingdoms Era, Goryeo, Silla, 1st century BCE, 668 CE. Following the fall of Gojoseon, the Korean peninsula fragmented into several powerful kingdoms. By the 1st century BCE, 3 dominant states emerged, Goryeo, and Silla, forming the celebrated Three Kingdoms period. Goryeo, in the north, was the largest and most militaristic, extending into Manchuria. In the southwest, was culturally refined and established close ties with Japan. Silla, in the southeast, was initially the weakest but eventually rose through strategic alliances and internal reform. These kingdoms shared a common heritage but often engaged in fierce wars. Buddhism spread widely during this era, deeply influencing Korean art, architecture, and statecraft. Goryeo built massive fortresses, excelled in sculpture, while Silla developed sophisticated gold craftsmanship. With the help of China's Tang dynasty, Silla eventually defeated its rivals and unified most of the peninsula by 668 CE, beginning a new chapter in Korean history. The Three Kingdoms period laid the groundwork for Korean language, cultural identity, and political structure. It was a golden age of regional development, religious evolution, and rising national consciousness. Part 3. Unified Silla and Balhae, 668 to 935 CE. After Silla unified much of the Korean peninsula in 668 CE, the country entered a period of cultural and political flourishing known as Unified Silla. Though Silla ruled the south, a new kingdom, Balhae, rose in the north, founded by former Goryeo elites and occupying parts of Manchuria and northern Korea. Unified Silla embraced Buddhism as a state religion, building grand temples like Bulguksa and the Sukaguram Grotto. The capital, Gyeongju, became a vibrant hub of art, science, and international trade. Scholars traveled to Tang, China, bringing back Confucian ideals that began to shape governance. Balhae, meanwhile, developed a mixed culture blending Goryeo heritage, Chinese influences, and native Tungusic elements. It was an advanced state with its own capital, legal system, and international recognition, particularly by Japan and China. Despite cultural advancement, internal power struggles weakened both kingdoms. By the 10th century, Silla declined, and Balhae fell to the Khitans. This era is significant for the flourishing of Korean Buddhist culture, diplomatic outreach, and a stronger sense of shared Korean identity across different kingdoms. Part 4. The Goryeo Dynasty, 918 to 1392. After the fall of unified Silla and Balhae, a new kingdom, Goryeo, was founded in 918 by King Taejo. Goryeo unified most of the Korean peninsula and gave its name to modern Korea. The dynasty established a centralized bureaucracy, codified laws, and embraced both Confucianism and Buddhism. Goryeo is famed for its cultural achievements, including Celadon pottery, woodblock printing, and the creation of the Tripitaka Koreana, an enormous Buddhist canon carved onto over 80,000 wooden blocks. Despite cultural brilliance, Goryeo faced constant external threats. The Khitans, Jurchens, and especially the Mongol invasions in the 13th century devastated the kingdom. For nearly 80 years, Goryeo became a semi-autonomous state under the Mongol Yuan dynasty, leading to royal intermarriages and cultural blending. In the late 14th century, internal corruption and weakening royal authority led to the rise of reformist generals like Isong. Eventually, the Goryeo dynasty fell, but it left a legacy of resilience, Buddhist piety, and artistic excellence that deeply influenced Korean culture and identity. Part 5. The Joseon Dynasty, 1392 to 1897. Founded by General Isong, the Joseon dynasty is one of Korea's longest and most influential dynasties. Lasting over 500 years, Joseon solidified Confucianism as the state ideology, replacing Buddhism in government affairs. King Sejong the Great, one of Korea's most revered monarchs, created Hangul, the Korean alphabet, revolutionizing literacy and national identity. The dynasty emphasized education, science, and civil service exams, while maintaining a strict hierarchical social structure. Architecturally, palaces like Gyeongbokgung were built, and traditional Korean culture, habak, cuisine, court rituals flourished. However, Joseon also faced many hardships: Japanese invasions, Imjin War in the late 16th century, Manchu invasions in the 17th, and growing corruption in later years. Foreign pressure intensified in the 19th century, especially from Western powers and Japan. Joseon struggled to modernize while maintaining tradition. Though politically vulnerable by the 1800s, Joseon laid the foundational values of Korean society: respect for elders, scholarly pursuit, and cultural pride that persist to this day. Part 6. Japanese occupation and colonial rule, 1910 to 1945. In 1910, Korea was formally annexed by the Empire of Japan after decades of growing influence. This marked a dark and traumatic period in Korean history. The Japanese imposed a harsh colonial regime, banning the Korean language in schools, suppressing culture, seizing land, and exploiting labor. Koreans were forced to adopt Japanese names and customs. Resistance, however, was fierce. The March 1st movement in 1919 sparked mass nationwide protests and inspired exiled Korean leaders to form a provisional government in Shanghai. Korean guerrilla fighters also resisted in Manchuria and Siberia. Cultural preservation became a quiet act of defiance. Secret schools, literature, and underground newspapers helped keep Korean identity alive. During World War II, many Koreans were conscripted into labor and military service, and women were forced into sexual slavery as comfort women. The trauma of this era still echoes in modern Korean society. Japan's defeat in 1945 ended its rule, but Korea's division at the 38th parallel would lead to a new and difficult chapter in Korean history. Part 7. Division, War, and Modern South Korea, 1945-present. After liberation from Japan in 1945, Korea was divided along the 38th parallel, with the Soviet Union occupying the north and the United States the south. In 1948, two separate states were established: North Korea, DPRK, and South Korea, RK. Tensions quickly escalated, leading to the Korean War in 1950. The devastating conflict ended in a stalemate in 1953, leaving Korea permanently divided. South Korea faced poverty and political instability for decades, including military coups and authoritarian rule. However, beginning in the 1980s, it transitioned to democracy and launched rapid industrialization. Known as the Miracle on the Han River, South Korea became a global economic powerhouse in electronics, automobiles, and shipbuilding. Culturally, the Korean wave, Hallyu, spread globally, thanks to K-pop, K-dramas, film, and beauty trends. Today, South Korea is a leading democracy, a tech-savvy society, and a strong cultural exporter. Despite ongoing tensions with the North, South Korea has forged a unique identity rooted in resilience, innovation, and a deep sense of history stretching back millennia.